Hello, guys. This is Avcoor, and I want to talk about character roles. And the first character role I actually want to talk about is a tank. So I asked myself this question as I'm sitting down watching TV: what makes a good tank in Heroes of the Crown? What are you looking for in a tank? And I'm going to answer that question. The first thing is I believe that tanks are a necessary part of the team, much like the healer themselves. Sometimes you can get away with not having a tank, but you have to be a super well and you have to have a super great team construction. I'll start by saying that. But for the most part, if you're playing a simple man's game, a tank is pretty much required. I'll give a little backstory into my foray into tanking. My first tank was Shield of
Give them
Partha.
everything you got. I will be with you.
I think her character design is actually really great. Um, she was my first tank. I used her a lot. She got me through a lot of the beginning content. But the more I played, the more I realized that she's a good tank, but she's not a great tank. She's solid. She's mid tier. She's a mid tier tank. And as far as tanks go, the stats you're looking at are defense and HP, not so much speed. Like we'll talk about the core tanks real quick. Like you
Give
got
them everything you got.
2.19
I will
mil
be with you.
and you have 7,888. That's for water. And you have 2.19 mil
Everything
and
is
you
under
have
my control.
7,891. That's really good. Stat wise, he's really good. We'll talk about weaknesses later. Then you have Panda, who has 2.2 million, who has
Worldly
seven
things cannot affect a heart
970.
of dragon arts.
So like this, they just designed him to be the best tank out of the core elements. That's kind of not fair. That's kind of not fair, dude. Come on, bro. So obvious. And then you have Grail. Grail is 2.26 mil, and he sits at 8,510, which is incredible. But he's a light hero, and in order to get him to 12 stars, to get him to 10 stars, to get him to 11 stars, pretty much you're gonna have to spend money. Uh, Unless you were smart at the beginning of the game when you first started, and you went into Trade Emporium and you just only bought this guy. You only bought this guy. You just didn't care about Lord of Time. And I think she's a better investment at the beginning of the game. But if you did that, then you do have a Blessed Guardian at a high level. I did not do that, so that's where that stands. So we go into Dark and look at the core Dark take.
I will become the best puppet master.
And that's 2.3 million. He's really slow, but that doesn't matter. And you're sitting at 8,903 defense. Those are the type of stats you're looking at for your tank. As you can tell, Grail and Puppet Master have like phenomenal stats. I'm just comparing them right
I
now.
will become
Those are
the
phenomenal
best
stats.
puppet master.
Those are phenomenal stats. The speed doesn't matter. What tank speed don't doesn't matter unless you're running a speed comp. It doesn't matter. Like, yeah, man, that's kind of busted. Wow, that's amazing stats. But anyways, going into my soiree into tanking, I use her a lot, and she's really good.
Give them everything you got. I will be with you.
But as you can see, stat wise, she is lacking. You know, that's the first part of her kit. Not her kit, but her construction. And compared to other tanks that I have gained, her stats are lacking. And that's not her fault. As a core elemental hero, her stats will not be as great as the light and dark heroes. It just won't happen. But let's go into some aspects of tanks that are important. One of the weakest aspects of Shield of Partha is she is kind of selfish as a tank. So this is one of the things that makes her less selfish. She has some CC in her kit that she actually freezes an opponent. It takes one guy to fight for a round. That's important. But it's a raid skill, so like it takes you 2 hits to get your raid skill back. So that's 2 rounds, unless you have counter attack or you have combo that you can build your raid skill up. So basically, she puts a shield on herself and she freezes the target. Um, she's got a reduced damage shield and she can freeze people, and that's pretty much it. So the first thing I would say about a tank is you want your tank in order to help the team. Every good tank helps the team. Mid-tier tanks like her don't really help the team. I mean, she provides some CC. If you position her up front, she takes the front row hits, and that's the position where you want every tank to be. So, in my strategy, I would run the arrow formation. I put her in the center. I would split 2 to the left, 2 to the right, and she take all the damage, and that works. But ultimately, she kind of started to fall short. Like as a tank, she started to fall behind. And like I said, that's not her fault. It's the way the game's designed. You start with a tank you like, but then you realize there are better tanks. And I realized there were better tanks. But overall, I mean, if you're starting out, she's good. But this is why this is what defines a good tank as opposed to a bad tank. How much they support the team. A good tank, as you're going to see later, supports the team. Now I'm going to go to a worser tank. Julius, stat wise,
Oh, everything is under my control.
is fine. Um, Stat wise, he's fine. He's on par with Shield of Partha. Right up there with Panda. That's not his problem. It's his skill set that's his problem. I used to really like Eternal Flame Julius. I still to this day have a soft spot for this character. I like his design. I think he had potential, but they just kind of screwed it up. So the first thing you'll notice about this character is he's a tank that does AoE damage, which is not great, and especially for the simple fact that as a tank you want him to support the team. I'm going to show you Morlock. Morlock is probably a better tank than him, but he's more of a support character. Doing AoE damage is okay, and he gets an increased damage effect, which is okay, but he's not supporting the team with this. The argument would be that in a fire comp he does support the team because he's applying burn to everybody, and the burn effects that he produces enables his team in order to get crits and special effects based on burn. So one could argue that's the case. Nirvana is trash. This is a trash skill. It helps no one. He just goes into an egg state. He can take 5 hits and then he revives himself. The theory behind this is you place him up front in an arrow formation or a backwards T formation, and he takes all the damage. He revives himself, and then you don't have to revive him the next turn. But it doesn't work that way because there's a lot of characters like Celestial Spear that hits multiple times and they can break this easily. So you end up losing Julius before he even gets the revive effect. So it's not that great. And he has the buff and he applies burn. So this is a mediocre tank. Julius, if you look at my videos, I really like Julius. I won a lot of fights with Julius. That's because I really liked him. I built great strategies. But overall, he is an inferior tank because he does not support the party that much. And if you take him out of a fire-based team, he's even worse. So he can't even you can't even splash him across teams. Like you can't even really splash shield apart that much across teams either. I learned that like the hard way. You can't splash those two characters across teams. So now we'll go to a better tank, probably the best tank in the game. Um, oh, forgot. Let's talk about Morlock. Let's go because I promised to talk about Morlock. Morlock is kind of what you want out of a tank. Um, his stats are lacking though. As you can see, he's like 196 mil
That's
as compared to 2.19,
Everything is under
and then you
my
have
control.
7,891 compared to 7,432. And these stats matter, and that's why Morlock's more of a support character because he doesn't have like the base stats in order to go all the way as a tank. He does have damage reduction in his kit. Flames protection does provide damage reduction by 10%, and he increases his speed so he can be a speed tank if you want that. The best part of his kit is the fact that he has a 100% chance to apply crit lifesteal and to put shield on all allies. This allows him to support the party because these supports actually are really good. Power of Scarlet Horn actually just tops it off really nicely because it gives you increased crit rate, something that single target DPSs crave and desire above all things is high crit rate. More so than crit damage, because if you can't crit, you can't take advantage of crit damage. So crit rate is super important for single target attackers, and he provides that. That's why you can splash him in different teams because a lot of characters would love to have their crit rate up. People like Sinister Dragoon, Monkey King, Celestial Spear, um, who else? Uh, Wendy, the um, Endless Storm, Scarlet Moose. All these characters would love high crit rate. They would love a guy like Morlock on their team. But raw stats, like when you look at his Awakening, he gets increased HP. He does not get increased damage reduction, which is bad. And he gets increased speed, and it has lifesteal on crit is increased by 30%. That's great, but it doesn't help him tank at all. So that's why I don't consider him a tank, but a buffer. But anyways, let's go back to Panda. Panda is probably one of the best tanks in the game, but that's being challenged by the light and dark heroes.
Affect a heart of dragon arts.
But I currently use him in my party right now. In a couple of months, I'll probably change to Puppet Master. But for now, it's Master Dragon Don. There's a couple of reasons why Master Dragon Don is one of the best tanks in the game. You see his stats, 2.2 mil, 7,970 defense. That is really good. His attack is Garbo. It doesn't matter. He's a tank. He's just meant to take hits. What makes Dragon Master Don good is the fact that he covers all the aspects of a tank that you would want in Heroes of the Crown. First of all, he buffs the team. He's not a selfish unit like Shield of Partha. He adds Dragon Art Shield that gives you HP Shield, which is HP shields are super great, and because his HP Shield can stack on top of other people's shields, which is super good. He gets the damage increase, and this is the thing that he gets that allows him to really shine. He gets counterattack. He gets counterattack without having to waste a slot for it. He doesn't waste a talisman slot for that. So you can give him other stuff that he can use that will make him super good. So, and this is the second thing that makes him like incredible. Probably what keeps him at the top of the food chain as a tank for a while, a long while. He gets intervene. Intervene means he shares the received damage with other heroes. That means he's protecting your squishies no matter what. That means you could place him anywhere you want on the team. He is so easy to splash into different teams. It's kind of insane. You can run black. You can run dark and wind. You can run light and wind. You can run water and wind if you wanted to. You can actually run fire and wind if you wanted to. And you can just put him in a pure wind team if you wanted to. He blends well with the light and dark, which is pretty good. He protects like the squishies, keeps them safe because he's sharing 50% of the damage, and he's applying bleed. That's why he works well with AoE teams because he's constantly being attacked, and because of that, he's applying status effects on everybody. Because whenever an ally gets hit, he takes that hit with them and counters attack. That's why he's good on AoE teams and single target teams. A very versatile character. And he applies deep wounds. He's a very versatile tank. This is what you want your tank to do. First of all, you want him to buff the party. You want him to support the party. You want him to take hits from the party. You want him or her to increase the survivability of the party. And when you go into the light and dark heroes, they'll do the same thing. Each in their own special way. And you'll understand why the requirements for tanks are so high in this game. Most people don't think about it, but the requirements for tanks are a lot higher than DPS. Because you're asking this dude to do a lot. You're asking this chick to do a lot. You're asking this tune to do a lot. And people need to keep that in mind, that when you apply your resources to your tank, you need to dump a lot of resources into your tank. You need to dump resources into your healer, but not as much as your tank, because your tank is actually going to do a lot of work in the team comp. And you put this guy in the team comp once later on in the video after I go through all the roles. And when you see a full team comp, you're going to understand that you need to you're going to seriously dump resources into your tank. Before I go into light and dark, I'll even show you. I dump a lot of resources into my tank. Your tank should be over at 1,000 power.
Worldly things cannot affect a heart of dragon arts.
Like the best tanks are like 18. They're sitting at 1,800,000. Yeah, easily. We'll go over the stuff that you want on your tank, but your power should be like that. You should have a full set of gear, and you should already have them maxed out. These are things that you want to do for your tank. But going back into good light and dark tanks, we're going to talk about two on this one because light really got some good tanks. First, let's talk about Omega. You can tell by Omega stats that it's kind of busted.
Don't even think about taking away the freedom of Omega.
It's like the stats they give the light and dark heroes is so unfair. This dude's sitting at 8,507. And when you look at Panda, man, you can tell, man, the favoritism to light and dark is there, man, because that's kind of busted. Even his attack is higher than Panda's. But let's go into what makes this guy great.
Taking away the freedom of Omega.
All right, so you're getting Quantum Shield. Quantum Shield is actually super OP because it's a rage skill that actually is a defensive skill. All right, for the first thing, it cancels a rage skill. So this is an automatic non-death move. Like rage skills have the power to wipe out an enemy, either single target or AOE. So first of all, he puts up Quantum Shield. He's gonna do this in the first round because rage skills go off on the first round. So it's a 1-for-1. He actually sucks up a rage skill. And before it shatters, the energy shield will grant 20% damage reduction, which is amazing. This dude is slept on, but he's one of the best tanks in the game. It kind of sucks that like the higher you go up, the less you see Panda. As like the whales get access to these monsters, and they get them at 12 star. So like once this guy gets to 12 star, he's better than Panda. But I say Panda overall is the best tank because this dude is the paywall for this guy. You got to spend money for him. Anybody who has this guy at 12 star has spent money. I don't care what they say. Singularity conversion is really good. He restores his own HP. Like I said, you want your tank to live, but you also want him to support the team. And this guy does this really well. And once you stack on Talisman, his survivability goes up really high. Once you put Bandage on this guy, it gets kind of stupid. He's just restoring his own HP. It's really stupid. So you get the 10% damage reduction, 50% chance to gain preemptive strike. After unleashing a red skill, Omega uses his quantum shield to absorb energy and enhance his cannon. So he's hitting 2 people. And this guy's guaranteed to move first, so he can get his rage skill off first. Really, really solid stats, man, because he's not doing as much support as some of the other ones that we're going to go over, but he does just enough in order to be one of the top tier tanks. And this is what you want your tank to do. You want him to be something like Omega. You want him to stop rage skills, because stopping rage skills can like make or break the battle, and he consistently does that off a rage skill, which is kind of stupid. Let's go to Grill. You saw Grill's stats, so you know this dude's about it. This dude is about it, man. This dude's freaking about it, man. Look at that. 8,510. Man, he's about it, dude. That's freaking nuts. Look at that HP stat, man. I feel so sorry for Panda. Well, once you start hitting the light and darks, man, it starts getting stupid. But yeah, Garde's where it's at, man. He's where it's at. Freaking nuts. One thing I'll say about Garde is he is the standard for tanks. He's kind of like the tanks that if you play WoW or any one of those games or what's another MMORPG you guys probably know about? I play WoW. Uh, that's like the only MMORPG I really like deeply played. Oh yeah, I played Star Wars: The Old Republic. So anyway, this is the type of tank you're looking at. This guy takes it and taunts. And taunt is like kind of busted in this game. And once you start building this guy up, his taunt becomes ridiculous. And once again, he has counterattack for free. You don't have to give up a slot for his counterattack. Garde actually is an amazing tank because he can actually taunt more than one person, and that means they're all focusing their attacks on you. When you look at Panda, Panda's taking damage for everybody, but Garde does something different. If you're taunted, you're not using a rage skill, you're using your basic attack. So he's shutting down like enemy comps really, really hard. Once he's a taunt tank, and once you start building him towards that, you'll be surprised how much work this guy does. I see a lot of well players who really like enjoy the game and the strategy build him to like frightening levels. And Divine Barrier does that. I mean, 80% chance to taunt a random enemy and a 45% chance to taunt another one. And he gets counterattack. It's pretty good. As long as I'm here, no one shall fall. Watch this. He has a 100% chance to apply tenacity to all heroes. That means he's getting reduced damage by 15%. Last 3 rounds can stack up to 3 layers. This is pretty good. We have another tank that actually reduces the damage the enemy deals to you. But this is basic tank stuff, man. So you're reducing the damage you're taking for everybody. He stacks well with people like Morlock, who have the HP shield. I mean, this guy's really good. At first, I didn't think he was that good, but once I got better at the game, I realized this dude is freaking busted. Man, they handed this one a rock. Yeah, man, this dude's super good. And if you build a light team, and if you're building a pure light comp, you kind of want this guy on your team. You kind of want twins and him, and then you start building your team around that. Valkyrie is great. Elementalist is great. Monkey King is great. It depends on what you want out of your DPS. But as far as tanks go, I mean, him and Omega are top tier. Rage also adds shield, absorb 8% of the effect of max HP and damage. It's pretty amazing what this guy does. I'm actually gonna he's the next character I'm gonna build after I do Anubis, because I'm just gonna keep going for him because he's amazing. He really is, and I like to experiment with him. So Dark has 3 tanks, and we'll go over them and why they're good. First, let's talk about Puppet Master. I'll talk about Puppet Master.
I will become the best puppet master.
As you can tell, Puppet Master has 8,903 defense, one of the highest defense stats in the game. That's really busted, and he's got 2.3 mil. His speed is garbage, but this is a specialty type of tank. He's made to counter AoE strategies because he can heal everybody at once. So the first aspect of his kit is Soul Imprison. This actually does help the team because it puts more pressure on the opponent's defense as you enable your DPS to kill a unit and for them not to come back. Because Soul Imprison basically says you can't revive for the next 4 turns. This really helps out your DPS. It seems like it would be just for him, but this is a team skill. Soul Imprison at its core is a team skill because it supports your DPS and what they're trying to do, and that's kill the opponent. And if they can't come back, they can focus on killing another opponent. So we're already seeing the foundations of a great tank. For the simple fact he can do that. It only gets better. The Popus Sorcery, every time he hits, he gets Cursed Soul. And at the end, he gets to apply that as healing for everybody. So he has passive healing effect. And if you put the time and effort in, his healing is like 75% of Lord of Time's healing, which is not bad for a tank. But this is to counteract the AoE meta where everybody hits everybody. Now he hard counters Elementalists when properly invested because this tank is designed to do this. You hit me, I restore HP to everybody, and your AoE damage is not so crazy. And it slows down assassins. Pretty much one of the core tanks of Dark. His kit is really good. Puppet's course gets him the damage reduction by 10%. He has a chance to apply curse, and when entering battle, reduces 25% damage of the hero with the highest attack. That's amazing. So, like the highest damage dealing character, you actually reduce their damage by 25%. That's amazing. This is pretty much one of the best tanks in the game. I hate the fact that Light and Dark kind of went kind of nuts. It's a paywall, it really is, but I like his character design. The next, I'll talk about one that I'm building. Everybody knows from my videos that
from the depths of hell to bury this world.
that I actually like Lord of the Dead. I think Lord of the Dead is one of the better like design characters as far as looks go. I mean, as far as like in the grand scheme of things, he's an above average tank. He's not like one of the top tiers like Grail or Panda, but he can do that in DPS. So this is a single target hard hitting tank. He does assist the party, which is one of the qualifications of a tank. That's what you're supposed to do. But this tank is different as he can apply offensive pressure. He actually can kill stuff. Like, if you play with Puppet Master isn't killing anybody. If you play with Grill isn't really killing anybody. These characters in and of themselves are support and defensive units. They can't really kill anybody. Over time, you can argue that Panda can kill people with bleed, but overall, they're not killing anybody. They're not designed to kill. They're designed to support and tank. Lord of the Dead can do what they cannot. Lord of the Dead can actually kill things. And you would say, hey, Avcoor, his attack is pretty like garbage. How's he killing everybody? Well, let's get into the skill set. And you can see that he's a pretty good killer. Now 8,500 is really good defense. That is really good defense. His HP is really good, and his speed is really solid. So you know he has like offensive potential, but he's a jack of all trades. He's a master of none really. Even his DPS in itself can be surpassed by like people like Monkey King and Lunar Shadow and Blade of Shadows and yeah, a lot of people. But not but the people that surpass him are like some of the best in the game, so I don't think that hurts him. So Life and Tomb actually gets you that 360% of attack, which is so great. There's a 50% chance for it to be recast. That's amazing. So this guy can hit and hit again. This is where his kill potential comes in. It's when you see this attack done, it's really lethal. Rotten Soul is where he reverses the effect that Grill does. He stops people from hitting you as hard as they could because aging reduces the damage they can deal to you. And whoever gets hit, even if it's not this guy, if somebody else on his team gets hit, he still can apply the status effect through them. So that's why this is what gives him team support. Because aging actually stacks. So when people are constantly hitting you, this actually can stack up and you can see them like actually start to slow down in their offense. That's why there's a build in mind for this guy that which I'm looking to try where you're not really going all in on offense, that you're actually going in on the life steal and the weathering down with aging. So this is actually a team support skill. And we go into Lord of the Dead, which is really good self buff. He reduces received damage by 10%, but after attacking, he adds Bloodthirst. And Bloodthirst gives you 10% damage increase, 10% life steal. So he actually increases his potential as a DPS. And once he dies, he enters Soul of the Dead state, which is pretty good. That's why Lord of the Dead is a character, a tank that likes to be around other tanks. He works best when he's supported by another tank, whether that is Lunar Shadow or Malicious Puppet or even Grell or Omega. He works well with other tanks, but he likes to be around light and dark tanks who have premium skills that can support what he's doing. And we'll talk about the last tank who likes to be around other tanks as well. And that's Lunar Shadow. Lunar Shadow actually likes to be around other tanks as well.
Master, take control of me.
But when you look at her kit and her stats, you say, hey Avcoor, she has like premium attack. Look at that. That's 1,000. That's 142k. I mean, her defense is actually solid. And her HP is abysmal. So what makes her a tank? And what makes her one of the best tanks in the game? The first thing I'll say about her, she requires a lot of investment, more so than any other tank in the game. But her overall combat potential is extremely high. Extremely high. I slept on this character and I kind of regret it because she is that broken. But it's with high investment and willpower. The people you see who use her the best have spent money and really enjoy using her in the game itself. Dance of the Moon is where we start to see the aspects of what a tank in this game you would want them to do. First of all, it supports the team because it puts taunt on the enemy. Taunt actually takes units out of the game and stops the use of rage skills. So the strategy with her is you actually want her up front, you want her to hit the enemy, and you want her to taunt as soon as possible. And she hits the front and mid row. Unlike other characters, unlike other tanks, she actually can hit multiple enemies. Um, Panda can hit multiple enemies, but not the same way and at the same degree she can. Because she deals way more damage than Panda could ever hope to do. And when you see later, she can deal even more damage. So her ability to hit multiple enemies separates her from pretty much all the rest of the tanks. Much like the ability to do single target damage separates Lord of Dead from pretty much most of the tanks. I think Dark has the best tanks in the game. They have Lord of Dead, they have Lunar Shadow, and they have Puppet Master. I will say that Light actually has the next two best tanks in the game, but they only have two and Dark has three, so take it for what you will. Revenge of the Moon is what sets her apart from other DPSs. Because, first of all, she actually has a counterattack built into her kit. At the Aloe Terror receives damage, there's a 100% chance to Revenge. Revenge will deal 20% plus 10, 20% plus curse stacks damage to the enemy in their front and mid row. There's a 50% chance to apply one stack of curse. You can only trigger this effect 2 times every round. That means she could counterattack every round, but she hits the front and mid row. This makes her so lethal. It's like a constant counterattack AoE. You actually have to reposition your opponent, your team, in relation to the opponent's team because of this character. Much like the simple fact that you cannot have like 3 people in one row with Valkyrie, it's kind of hard to have 3 people up front with Lunar Shadow, but if you play against Valkyrie and you think you might meet Valkyrie, and you meet her, it's kind of hard in team composition when you're going against like Lunar Shadow and anticipating Valkyrie using the triangle formation and getting butchered because of Lunar Shadow hitting the second and first row. It's pretty complicated strategies when it comes to positioning, but she punishes the front and mid row so bad because she can actually hit in one round. She can hit twice, so she's hitting at least 3 characters, if not more. I think the most people will have is 3 characters in the front and mid row. You have one person up front, 2 in the mid row, and 2 in the back. But that's still 3 characters, and that's off a counterattack. That's why she works so well with AoE teams. That's why Lunar Shadow herself would like to be around other tanks who have other support options to reduce the damage that she takes because she is a bit squishy. She is a bit squishy, but she hits like a truck. She hits so hard. You can even tell by her self buff that she gets 80% attack and 40% HP. So she's meant to hurt people. So what gets her around this? Avcoor? I mean, if she's supposed to be a tank, how's she gonna survive up front? It's the last skill. Alatin's is infused with well, whatever. After every round ends, gain 1 stack of Moonlight. When a hero dies, Alatin absorbs the escape soul to increase her damage dealt. So this is the trick with this character. This is why she wants to be around other tanks. She wants to get hit so she can counterattack. She would like to be in the X formation where you split. You would have like in the top left corner you have what's his name, Puppet Master, and then the top front right you would have her. She takes damage, but she's supported by whatever tank. And either Panda. Panda's a really good ally for her because Panda reduces the damage she takes, and later on, once Moonlight stacks up, she's able to take damage for herself. So if your Panda gets killed, she's ready to go. Like after 4 rounds, she gets like 20% damage reduction in her kit. 20% damage reduction. If she hits 5, if you hit 5, because people like to pair her with Super Twins or Lord of Time. If she hits like 5, but she can't hit 5 rounds with those two healing her with Panda, she's ready to go. And once a hero dies, which will happen, her damage will increase by 20%. Um, Even though she can die and it will remove the escape soul, but if you have a good comp to support her, that rarely happens. That's why she wants to be around another tank. You want either Lord of the Dead or you want Garde or you want Puppet Master in the left front row, and then they take hits and she takes hits, and over time she's able to take care of herself because her stacks have increased. Pretty much a solid strategy. All you have to do is keep her alive, and once she hits like round 5 or 6, it's over. That's why running Lord of Dead in the lifesteal tank strategy kind of works. And that's all for tanks as far as what you expect and what you would want from a tank. But as for how do you build on these guys? Well, what are you going to do with them? So let's go back to Panda. First of all, equipment, you actually want
Worldly
the
things cannot
protection
affect a
on
heart of
them.
dragon arts.
The only one you don't want protection on is Puppet Master. You actually want the healing set on Puppet Master because it increases his healing. And his defense is so high already, you really don't need that. You really don't need some of the effects. And Puppet Master's H pool is so high. So you can get away with having a healing set on Puppet Master. I've seen like a couple of whales play him that way. And it's a good way to play Puppet Master. But for the rest of them, they want defensive armor. And as far as you want Sultan's resistance, when entering combat, if affected by a control effect, there's 50% chance to be CC immune. This is important for tanks. This is actually important for Puppet Master too, because he gets like, if you freeze Puppet Master, he can't heal anymore because he has to attack in order to heal. So certain resistance is pretty OP for tanks. And you get increased HP, and there's a 20% chance to restore 5% HP per hit. Pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. And so what do we want for runes on a tank? Miss Providence. Miss Providence is good because it reduces damage. Alright. Miss Vigor. Miss Vigor is alright. I don't think Miss CC Immune is alright. Miss Lifesteal is good for people like Puppet Master and Undead Lord. Miss Combo is a must have. Miss Counterattack is not a must have for certain tanks who already have Counterattack in their kits. Miss Rapid is good for certain tanks who want speed. Miss Divine Spirits sometimes. Miss Bandage is really good. Miss First Aid is okay. Miss Earthen is pretty good. Miss Reflect is pretty good. Miss Lively is pretty good. No. This is for Undead Lord and Lunar Shadow. No. 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 Taunt is really good. Well, if you're building a taunt tank, this is super good. Super good on Grill. And Purify is super good. And that's what you want for your runes. And for your book, because you always want a book on a tank. If you can get a book on a tank, it's pretty good. You want your tank to have a book. Origins of Heroes is one of the best books for tanks. If your HP falls below 60% after getting attacked, 5 random negative effects are purified and restore 25% of max HP. Pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. That's what you want on your tank. You want to invest in your tank as soon as possible and as early as possible because that's how you start building your team. You get a healer, you get a tank, and then you decide from there what type of strategy you want and how does that tank fit in. But if you like my content, hit the like, share, subscribe, and I'll get back to you. Have a great day and goodbye.